Returning to Devil Worship in France, Are the Question of Lucifer, a record of things seen and heard in the secret societies according to the evidence of initiates. We are in Chapter 10, The Vendetta of Signor Margiotta. Moreover, in most Masonic countries of the world, he is either honorary Grand Master or honorary member in the 95th degree of Memphis, 90 degree of Mizraim, and 33rd degree Scottish Rite. The last honorary membership, including bodies under the Pike regime, as well as its opponents, Albert Pike. He is perfectly well acquainted with the claim of the Charleston Supreme Council to supreme power in Masonry, and that it is a usurpation founded on a forgery. In a letter which he had occasion to address some time since to a Catholic priest on this very subject, he remarks, "The late Albert Pike of Charleston, as an able Mason, was undoubtedly a Masonic pope who kept on leading strings all the Supreme Grand Councils of the world, including the Supreme Grand Councils of England, Ireland, and Scotland, the first of which includes the Prince of Wales, Lord Latham, and other peers who were in alliance with him, and in actual submission. Its introduction into America arose from a temporary schism in France in 1762, when Lacorne, a disreputable panderer to the Prince of Clermont, issued a patent to a Jew named Stephen Morin. Sometime after 1802, a pretended constitution was forged and attributed to Frederick the Great of Prussia. This constitution gives power to members of the 33rd degree to elect themselves to rule all Masonry, and this custom is followed. The good feeling of Masonry has been perpetually destroyed in every country where the ancient and accepted right exists, and it must be so in the very nature of its claims and its laws. Mr. Yarker has had no connection with the Supreme Dogmatic Directorate in any other form than this disputed but perfectly well-known assumption of the Charleston Supreme Council. The term Supreme Dogmatic Directorate was not used by Pike, and the confidence enjoyed by the American was never extended to Lemmy, though he may have desired it. Instead, therefore, all Masonry being ruled by a central authority unknown to the majority of Masons, we have simply a bogus claim which has no effect outside of the Scottish Rite, and of which all Masons may know if they will be at the pains to ascertain. When Signor Margiotta informed the officer of the Giordano Bruno Lodge that he secretly represented a central and unknown authority, it is in this sense that we must understand him. That is to say, he represented the interests of the Charleston Supreme Council. Hence, the revelations concerning universal Masonry are of an exaggeration founded upon a fact, and the Palladian order, of which Signor Margiotta tells us that he is a member, is at any rate not what it pretends. It has doubtless imposed on him by means of forged documents, as also upon Leo Taxil and M. Adolphe Ricot, the writings which it fathers upon Albert Pike, and quoted by Signor Margiotta as in other cases are stolen from Eliphas Levi, the so-called alphabet of the Palladium included. The documentary pièce de résistance, is that how you say it? Upon which our author relies as evidence for existence of an international Masonic organization, is a certain vout de protestation on the part of a so-called Mother Lodge, Lotus of England, Secret Temple of Oxford Street, against the transfer of the dogmatic directory from Charleston to Rome, the Standing Committee of Protestantation being Alexander Graveson, Providential Delegate of Philadelphia, USAVF, Palacios, Provincial Delegate of Mexico, and Diana Vaughan, Provincial Delegate of New York and Brooklyn. Signor Domenico Margiotta has been grossly deceived over this document, which he prints as the English original and guarantee of good faith side by side with the French translation, is a clumsy and ridiculous specimen of English as she is wrote. And the French is really the original. I append some choice specimens to the most illustrious, most puissant, most Leighton brothers, composing, we're not having a whole quote here, composing by right of ancient and members for life, the most serene grand college of emerited masons. Here the underlined passages are a Frenchman's method of interpreting into English. Tres éclairs frères à titre d'etchens et membres avis and machons emerites. If it's pronounced differently, that's wasn't my intention to say it wrong. Again, the protesters numbered 6 and 20, including 25 sovereign delegates present at the deed, and one sovereign delegate who could not stand by, en peut être présent, but the substitute of which wisely and prudently abstained from the vote at the first turn, au premier scrutin, and threw a blank ticket at the second, expound, verb governed by protesters, the acts and situation therefore disastrously resulting for our holy cause. See, there's something you need to know about. So if anybody throws in, it's what's called being blackballed. One person can, so this guy's coming to the lodge trying to buy degrees. Any whiff of that, somebody could throw in a little, Once more, the present protesting vault aims at the 2 ballots, viz. Les deux scrutins, and requests to proceed urgently to their annulment. Again, the Charleston brothers have not acted in such a manner as to forfeit the whole Masonry's esteem. The direction has not discontinued to prove foresight. It was unjust to transfer, etc., and so on, for 16 printed pages, which certainly deserve to rank among the curiosities of literature. And it is the precious document which appears over the signatures of Alexander Graveson and Diana Vaughan, after which I submit to my readers that Signor Domenico Margiotta may be dismissed with all his file of papers, not as himself deceiving, but as singularly liable to deception, of which he has otherwise given us several signal instances. For example, he believes himself to enjoyed the high privilege of beholding the Prince of Darkness upon 2 separate occasions. The first was in 1885 at Castel Nuovo, Garfagnana, in a beautiful old walled garden belonging to a high-grade mason named Orestes Cecchi, a fast friend of Margiotta. The time was the forenoon, and the two masons were smoking under the shade of green trees surrounded by floral delights. Margiotta was a spiritualist and a follower of Allan Kardec. Cecchi had a turn for the Vedas and the occultism of the Eastern world. They were chatting upon the possibility of transmigration. The one doubted, the other affirmed. Cecchi, to convince his companion, informed him that he possessed a familiar who invariably appeared to him under the form of a goat, but he had the look in his eye which proved positively that he was the grand architect of the universe, that there might be no doubt about the matter. Cecchi called his familiar, who appeared suddenly and joyfully caressed his master, at whose command he subsequently licked the hand of the overwhelmed Signor Margiotta, and it became red and painful. Cecchi playfully chided the apparition for not assuming human form, and hinted at the propriety of doing so. But the animal knowingly nodded, and incontently scurried away. Now I put to my readers that Cecchi was exploiting his friend, that a domesticated animal appeared at the summons of his owner in a wooded garden, and that Signor Margiotta is fooling when he pretends to believe that it was the devil. Now, yeah, of course, but is it any less ridiculous that the real God of the universe would appear as a goat or some other thing than as a human being? In certain way, there's reasons why animals were worshipped in ancient times, or gods of animals, or gods in animal forms, allegedly, as they were called. Think about it. They have abilities that humans don't have, or they have abilities that are better in certain ways when you compare them to humans. This idea that human is so superior, and well, we can certainly make choices, but I don't think it's so inherent. But why would a God have to incarnate in the first place? The second, well, I mean, I guess it's considered, oh, the goats sort of like the opposite of a sheep. Well, not really, but okay. They certainly taste different. The second experience was at Naples, under the roof of Pessina, about 10:30 in the evening, after a lodge meeting of the Mizraim rite. Then and there, as a matter of cordial good fellowship, then accommodating imperial Grand Master evoked a devil to give evidence of his actuality to Margiotta, who, in spite of the episode of the goat, still posed as a doubting Thomas. It was managed by the means of a whiskey bottle, out of which, after certain invocations and magical ceremonies, a vapor rose mysteriously and resolved itself into a human figure, wearing a golden crown, with a brilliant star in the middle. According to the picture which accompanies this delicious narrative, the apparition had the wings of a bat and the tail of the bovine class. It was Befabuck, the familiar of the magician, who begged him to enlighten the skeptic. But the latter, according to the apparition, was protected by a higher power and would never be persuaded to believe in him. Signor Margiotta gives the names of all who were present at the evocation, 12 members of the 33rd degree, to say nothing of the Mizraim dignities. I submit, however, that the episode of the bottle would split the rock of Peter, that is, that the absence of Signor Pessina for 20 minutes previous to the performance, eked out with a little ventriloquism and some pepper accessories, would explain much. And there is also another hypothesis, which I will leave to the discernment of my readers, and to which I lean personally. Now, another important thing to say is that, okay, there's a difference between believing something exists and believing that something can be psychically perceived as being the case, and saying you believe in it. You believe it's can be. You believe it is, but you don't believe in it. But I would be questionable about the whole idea of, oh, well, I'm going to believe in your path because you're a more powerful manifester, it appears, than me. Most of us would not go that way, even if we did see signs like that. Our witness in any case, would not be a persona grata to the Society for Psychical Research, as he is violent in his enmities, so is he gullible in marvels. His impeachment of Adriano Lemmi must be ruled completely out of court. His thaumaturgic experiences are paltry trickeries. His account of Albert Pike is largely borrowed matter. The magical practices which he attributes to Passini are derived from the Little Albert and other well-known grimoires. The most that follows from his narrative is that certain Italian Masons, probably atheists at heart, pose as partisans of Satan simply to accentuate their derisions of all religious ideas, much after the manner of Voltaire and some of his cynical correspondence. It is a continual form of pleasantry and an artistic experiment in blasphemy which is taken seriously by the unwise. Now, so the Church of Satan and the Temple of Set enacts certain ideas. Are they getting us ready for real theistic Satanism? Making us comfortable with it? Are they just trying to provoke, are they trying to expose the unwise, as it would be called? I need hardly add the story of Aut Diabolus aut Nihil, which is accepted literally by Dr. Batiel, is also the subject of reverential belief on the part of Signor Margiotta, and as an illustration of his classifying talent, he terms Adriano Lemmi a Mormon because, having obtained a divorce, he in the course of time contracted another marriage. Because the New Testament does not allow divorce. So more and more churches have been accepting of this, but furthermore, the very strong testimony which Signor Margiotta leaves to Dr. Battelle, directly by eulogium and indirectly by citation, as also the intimate relations which he maintained with Diana Vaughan, make his value as a witness of Lucifer dependent to a large extent upon the credibility of these persons, with consequence which will shortly appear. Lastly, his own personal credibility seems seriously at stake when he talks of triangular provinces. He and those connected with him can alone explain what that means. They have never existed in Masonry. Mr. Yarker, who he says is Grand Master of such a province, has never heard the expressions. M.R.S. Brown, Grand Secretary of the Supreme Grand Royal Ark Chapter of Scotland, also denies all knowledge of the one which, according to Signor Margiotta, is located in Edinburgh. And so the next chapter is going to be female Masonry. And to sort of provide you some sort of proof, this isn't my personal copy, but this is, this was given after my birth to someone, and this is in this room. Easy access to the actual owner, my father. But at some point, the older versions of these books, will certainly be open. Now, there was at least second period Book of Mormon that I saw at my grandfather's. I would have loved to inherit that. I don't even know if any of the family obtained that version, but you can apparently find pictures and stuff like this of the older versions of the Book of Mormon, the Pearl of Great Price, and the Doctrine and Covenants, which was the Doctrine and Covenants was originally called the Book of Commandments. you can find some of these. So I thought at some point I will share of these. This what I have in the hand is the third generation edition. It's more than just footnotes. You have 4 periods where there were actual changes beyond spelling, grammar, footnotes, page formats. I mean, really, they changed the page format from one printing to the other. It's like, if the words are the same, let's dismiss that. If they maybe added verse numbers, okay, but that's not really much of anything. I mean, some scriptures you do have that, but anyways, I was going to share my own thoughts of that at some point. But these people worry about Luciferianism because Luciferianism, just like Masonry and still have some food in my mouth, and the Illuminati, as it would be said, kind of wanted to overdo the tyranny of the statecraft and the priestcraft. And sometimes forming a social order is one of the ways to address this. But it was also a way for different groups to kind of, leave this mere politics at the leave the mere politics at the door and kind of, but self-responsibility, self-realization, self-actualization, even self-mastery. That is what Luciferianism is about. There are people who are diabolical with it, whether that's theistic Satanism or acting out what would be called evil, but that's not inherent.